Good day, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. Today, doing another video on a series that I haven't touched in a little bit, and that is the Backlog versus. And today it's going to be Backlog versus Death Stranding, the director's cut to be specific. Now, because I haven't done one of these in a while, I'll do a little refresher. Backlog versus is my series where I do sort of first impressions, very similar to my What's This Then series. Sort of a first impressions critique, first impressions review, you know, just talking about my experience with the game, whether I think it's like worth picking up, playing, and all that sort of business, any downsides, all that sort of business. However, with Backlog Versus, it is much more focused on older games. So when I say older games, I don't mean like something like 10, 20 years old. I just mean something that is not in the current sort of gaming eye, if that makes sense, you know. Probably about like, you know, a year old, any older than that. Something that's just in your backlog now, essentially. With a focus on like, you know, how it holds up today, how like did the updates have much big effect on it, in the terms of like really older games, you know, like how does it run on modern hardware, etc. What's the general view on the game these days, you know, that sort of stuff. So, Death Stranding Director's Cut. Before we jump into the game, let's jump into the settings menu, as always. So, game settings, you've got some decent stuff in here. You've got game difficulty, you can change that at any time. Now, game difficulty in this one's interesting because, well, Death Stranding is an interesting game, so of course the game difficulty is also interesting here. One of the main focuses of this game is that you will be carrying cargo to and from places, and the more cargo you have, the more this can affect like your weight distribution and balance and stuff. This impacts that sort of thing, as well as like any like, you know, damage you take and all that sort of stuff. So game difficulty affects, I believe it also affects how fast you default move. So just your normal standard moving speed. So I think if you play on the hardest difficulty, you move slower. So distances like feel longer, essentially, which is a pretty interesting one. I've been playing on hard and I've been tempted to move up to very hard, to be honest. This game is not a hard game. But we'll talk about that once we get more into it. Login upon launch, this game uses a lot of online stuff for seeing other players' things. Again, something we'll talk about more when we get in there, but think of it a bit like Dark Souls messages, but with a bit more tangible effect on what's actually going on in your world. Avatar images, just so you can see their like avatars. You can turn that off if you want, so you don't want to see their wacky, you know, avatar that has no place in a Death Stranding game, but, you know, it gives it more of a personal touch. Hide signs containing spoilers. This is potentially a good one you might like if you're very sensitive to knowing where things are and all that sort of business, because you might see a sign that a player has left down that says, hey, in this area, there's normally bad stuff. You know, this area is usually dangerous. Be careful here. And maybe you don't want to know that. Maybe you'd like to figure that out for yourself, so you can turn that off. BT encounter warning. This is just when you enter a BT sort of area. You get like this little cutscene that really nails in the fact that, hey, you've just walked into a BT area, so be careful. So you can choose to have that off. You know, first time only, the first time it ever happens, or every time. Shared content is just like it's not really a big impact on stuff, but it's, you'll see it more once we get in. Some cargo stuff, that's alright. That's just if you find cargo just lying around, you can do multiple things with it, what you would like it to do. You got like photo mode, sharing play data, loading screen settings, all sorts of stuff. It's all pretty good. It's all decently good stuff there. Controls for the controller, pretty standard stuff. Do you want your auto aim? How do you want your sprinting to work? How do you want your weapon stuff to work? Soothing the baby, you know, how do you want that to work? All your sensitivities and such. Now, one downside is there's no rebindable controller stuff, which is a bit unfortunate. But whenever you get into keyboard and mouse, there's all these sort of same settings, and there is rebindable keys, so that's good. But just would always like to see that for controller as well. I understand that is a bit more. It's weird because you have less buttons, which you should think makes it less complex an issue, but because you have less buttons, it actually makes it more complex because you can't just assign something to a button and be like, all right, that's that button, because you're going to have overlap somewhere. You're going to have button combinations somewhere. That's probably why they don't let you do it. But it would be nice to have, just for the options. Then you got your HUD settings, turn off markers and stuff. Something you might want to do, although there's not many markers, to be honest, in the game by default. Language settings, change the subtitles, all that sort of business. Graphic settings, you can change pretty much everything you'd want to change in here. You've got a maximum frame rate counter that just sort of goes in the standard increments. That might change depending on what your monitor's refresh rate is. I've seen some games do that. Get your VSync. You've got your full screen and your windowed and stuff here like that. Although you probably didn't see anything change there because I'm using OBS Game Capture. Available graphic memory, you can change some of the stuff. They've got some like texture streaming, business, DLSS. I haven't had a need for that. This game runs incredibly well. That's one thing I did want to mention is just that I know the game isn't like, coming out in the last like 2 or 3 years modern or anything, but it still looks really good and it runs exceptionally well. It reminds me a lot of what's the game? Metal Gear Solid 5, Phantom Pain, and how that game looked absolutely gorgeous and ran like a dream. Or at least from my experience it did. This game reminds me of that. Screen brightness, well, you know what that is. Audio settings, this is like the one big nitpick for the settings menu, and that is that there is no individual audio sort of configuration options. There is only master volume. So you can't change like weapon sound effects or like vehicle sound effects or just footstep sound effects in comparison to like the music or something like that, which is a bit of a downside. Would very much like to be able to change that. Personally, I haven't found the mix to be like in need of changing individual stuff, but that's not really the point, is it? The point is just having the option. It would be nice for the use cases that it would be needed for. But yeah, let's jump into it. I'm about... How far am I in? I think Steam says I'm about 12 hours in, but I've been streaming it and been taking some breaks here and there, so I'd say maybe about 10 hours in. So decently far. I feel like I've got a good grasp on what's going on. There are still mechanics that are still being sort of like drip-fed to me, which is keeping the game's pacing up really nicely, so I do like that. But, yeah, welcome to the world of Death Stranding, or America, I guess. This is our main man, Sam. Norman Reedus and the baby fetus. So this is still early on in the game, so don't expect spoilers unless just area spoilers are your thing. But you've probably already clicked off if just seeing an area in a game is enough for spoilering for you. So what I had planned on doing is I'll probably take a side quest, and then we'll just chat about the game as I go on. So this is kind of like your delivery terminals. You'll be seeing this screen a lot. And you can do a couple of different things. You can take on orders. There's the main missions, orders for Sam. Well, I say main missions. There is a progression mission, and then there's like side main missions, and then there's also standard orders, which are just super side missions. They have like no effect. They are just for your own personal like to do and to get whatever benefits out of them that you'll get and stuff. There's also these like bot deliverable ones. This was quite a late mechanic that I've gotten here. And it's there's autonomous robots that can sometimes take on the standard orders for you if you have one available. But they won't guaranteeingly do like the best job, maybe. So, if you wanted to get like the best job, because you're graded on all these based on like how long it took you and how damaged the stuff is and all that sort of business. So you might want to look into doing that. You can claim materials. So if you want to move materials from one place to another because they are not connected unless they're on the network, which is a whole thing. That's a whole story related thing. Recycle if you have, because I do actually, I have a few things that got destroyed because there's a hazard called timefall where the rain like causes things to corrode and basically age incredibly fast if it hits them. I've also used a few things, so we can send those in because they're destroyed and useless now, and we can turn them back into some like materials that we can maybe use later. Get a little cutscene of our character doing so. I'm just going to skip it for now. You get like a little thank you. It's interesting. It must be so interesting just jumping into this game at like random points and having no context for anything, because context really is what is needed for like everything in this game. Okay, yeah, that's the first time I've actually clicked on that, so they're telling me all about that. But yeah, Share Locker, this is some of the online functionality where you can donate weapons and stuff, or you can claim cargo that has been sent by other players. So there's some stuff just sitting in here that you can just be like, you can just have that, Someone just left it there in their game. And they're saying, like, anyone who wants it, you can have it. And you can do the same with your own stuff. So this is part of the whole, like, shared connection. You've probably heard the joke of the first Strand type game. That's like, it's like the whole point of this game. And everything about this game reinforces this connection. This idea that, we're all stronger when we're connected together and like helping each other and stuff. You can also fabricate equipment. Yep, they're going to tell me about this because I just got that unlocked. And that as well. A lot of this. There's a lot of this. You'll be seeing this throughout the entire game where like you unlock something and you'll have to go through this little mini like dialogue thing where it gets explained like 3 times because you'll unlock it, it'll get explained. You'll go to like build it, it'll get explained, and then you'll build it and then it'll get explained again. I've seen that happen with a few things. It's quite funny. That floating carrier is actually something I've just unlocked, and I believe it's like a little, yeah, like floats behind me and carries something for me, which is kind of cool. But yeah, you can choose stuff in here and be like, I would like a maser gun, please, which is kind of like a big taser. Because in the world of Death Stranding, killing people is kind of a big no-no for story-related reasons. But that's why you might have seen that there's like, yeah, no like fatal combat, really. There's some interesting stuff going on with the story in that regard, and I'm going to try and not talk about story stuff too much, other than the fact that the story is, in my opinion, quite compelling. But I really like really human stories told in very strange, like obscure, like ways. So like, for example, Everything Everywhere All at Once is one of my favorite movies. And the story it's actually telling, like the point it's making, is an incredibly like simple one, but like, you know, like a powerful one. And it's told in just an incredibly interesting way. And it's the same here. It's kind of like this whole story of people being connected, being the best thing for people. So very, very cool, very, very interesting. A lot of it you're gonna like, if you just take it at face value, you're just gonna be like, what am I looking at? But it's one of those games you have to think like, okay, this is the framework that this is all being told in. This is the context. Okay, how does that link in with this idea, this theme, etc. But there is going to be just a lot of weird shit as well. I mean, we're talking about a Hideo Kojima game here. So I picked up the side mission. So we're going to deliver rare miniature cars to someone who wants them. And so whenever you get something, you're given the option, like, do you want to just put it on your back? Do you want it in your hand? Do you want to just offload it in front of you? And then you can sort it out then. You're pretty much always just going to put it on your back. And then from here, this is when you can kind of manipulate where you want things placed on your character for, like, optimal sort of like weight distribution and balance and stuff like that. Now, right now, everything is in its optimal thing because I had nothing in my backpack, so it just went straight in there and it's all good. However, whenever you're in this screen and you have like a bunch of stuff, you can just hit triangle, and it will optimize everything for the best like weight distribution. I have never not just used that button. I don't know why it doesn't do that by default, to be honest. But it's also fun that you can, you know, actively mess about with that and do whatever you want. So essentially, yep, we got a mission, and this is what you're going to be doing a lot of the time. A lot of the ins and outs of this game's like gameplay is going to come from how you do this and what happens in between while you're doing this sort of stuff. So you'll see that's my destination over there. So this is actually a really short one. This is like the fact that I can see where I'm delivering from where I've picked up the job from is a rarity. That does not happen very often. But it is interesting because I remember when this game first came out and it was very divisive because you had this big budget presentation, so it picked up the eyes of like a lot of people, you know, people who wouldn't normally play this sort of game. Because of its marketing push, because of its big budget appeal, it picked up a lot of eyes that it maybe otherwise wouldn't have if people knew exactly what sort of game it was. And I knew a lot of people personally that whenever the game came out, people either latched onto it and went, this is compelling, this is interesting, this is different. And then some people picked it up and they were just like, I'm just walking everywhere all the time. What is this game? You know, just not what they expected at all. I have to say, I fall into the first camp where I'm really interested by what this game does. I think when a game does something totally different, I think that's always worth experiencing. And I think this game, I can only commend Hideo Kojima's commitment to the bit, you know? It's not like this was a slight thing in an otherwise, like, sort of more by the numbers kind of game. It's no, that he went all out. Every aspect of this game is just full send on this idea that he wants to tell. And yeah, I personally really like it, and I think he said recently, because Death Stranding 2's obviously came out there very recently as I'm making this video. He has said that like he kind of wants his games to have some people who just play it and just completely bounce off. You know, he thinks like that's like a good idea, and I do like that approach. And you know, maybe I wouldn't like it so much if I played the game and I was like, oh, this is shit, I don't like this. But in this case, I really like it. But yeah, this is most of what the gameplay is going to be. You're gonna be heading from A to B. Now, I don't have very much on my backpack, so I'm not really having to worry about like balance and stuff like that. But whenever you have like a lot of stuff, getting from A to B is actually really, really tricky. Now a lot of the time you can hold L2 and R2, and this kind of like does your balance. But while you're holding that, you can't really do other actions. So, oh, actually, here's a lost bit of cargo that another player has like dropped along the way. So another player has been carrying this somewhere, and through whatever has happened, they have dropped it, or something attacked them and they were forced to leave it there, or you know, something. So now it's in my game because they abandoned it, and I can pick it up and take it, and I will get some of the likes, which is another interesting part of this game. You sort of get likes, and likes maybe unlock like new aspects of the game and stuff like that, but it's generally just a way to sort of get everyone like cooperating. You know, it's like, hey, someone built this, give them likes. You know, likes are good. Let's just cross this river. Rivers can be a little bit nasty. You can use R1 and use like this little scanner, and it'll like give you a basic rundown of like kind of what the terrain looks like to walk on. If you see the blue, that means no issue. Yellow means you're gonna have to be trudging through that, and red means that like deep enough that you will be swept away if you walk into that. And it's a big part of what makes this game so interesting to me is like I feel so invested in the terrain I'm actively walking on, and it's not something that you really see very often in games. I think the Souls games are really good at this, and your sense of place in them is so good that you just feel so connected to the world and even just the very room that you're in and you're experiencing. And I feel the very same way in this one. It's like every rock, every bit of hill and stuff I'm having to look at and focus on, because it's like, oh, can I walk on that fine? You know, is that like okay for me to walk on? Now, obviously, when I've only got like a few bits and pieces on me, it's not too much of an issue. But whenever you get more stuff on you, this gets more difficult, essentially. And you start having to really pay attention. Oh, here's a bike. So this is actually my bike. I got attacked by BTs on the way, and I had to leave it here. And it got left out in the rain, so now it's all rusty and a bit damaged. But I've come back. It's not fully destroyed, and we can actually hop on this and get going. So vehicles are... I don't think I've ever played a game before where I get a vehicle and I am so, like, actually excited about that idea. Because a vehicle can obviously make your life a lot easier whenever you just have to go from A to B. But, obviously, you're dealing with a lot of funky terrain, so you have to be careful. And also, they handle a little bit weird sometimes. But you can absolutely Skyrim horse your way around some really weird spots. In fact, I did that earlier in my playthrough. There was a spot where you're kind of supposed to leave any vehicles you have, because you're kind of expected to have a bike at that point. And this area is very narrow, filled with BTs, lots of rocks. You're kind of expected to get stuck there, hop off the bike, and then have a very tension-fueled sort of movement past all the BTs and stuff. And I just b-hopped my bike over the rocks, to be honest. It wasn't fast. It was definitely would have been faster if I didn't do that, but I got to keep the bike. So, and I love it when a game is as free as that, you know? I love it when a game offers that freedom. Like, here's the systems. If you can make it work, you've made it work, you know? Love that. So there's one of those signs I was telling you about. So this is like basically saying like, hey, if you go up there, this is the BT sign, like sort of the prominent enemy of this game. And this is just letting you know like, hey, they have been here, they have been spotted here. When you go up there, you might experience them. And then you can go up to them. Much like this. In fact, I'll show you real quick. And you can like them. And you can mash the like button until that bar goes down. And then you've just sent a bunch of likes to them. It's it's all interesting. It's all very weird. It's all very strange. But like I said, it's all sort of going around that idea of connection. And you're either gonna love that, you're either gonna like how it all does that, or you're gonna think like, why that is so stupid, like why is it like that? Why wasn't it just done like differently or more normal or something? But I personally think that's kind of missing the point whenever you've got such a strange way it can be done. I don't know. I just personally find it so compelling. So here's part of the connection I was talking about. So whenever you move through an area for the first time, it's not connected to the chiral network, it's called. And essentially it's like this form of information or form of data that can be sent over like the network. And it can be used for like a multitude of things. So one of the things it can be used for is building these structures like out in the world. And so you can, another player can put this down and then someone else can finish it and then it gets built for everyone. Well, not literally everyone. I'm sure they have some kind of algorithm that not every player built structure appears every time. Otherwise this whole place would just be filled with bridges literally the whole way down every river. But the first time you move through an area, it's not connected to the network. So it's very empty, very barren. You have to make do with whatever you bring, and that's it. And then once you get to wherever it is you're going, whether that be a delivery area like that over there, and you connect it, then you suddenly see all the player stuff, and it just feels so much more like alive. It feels more traveled. It feels safer. It's like more familiar. It's really cool. I really like the idea of it. And it's also very fun, like, having struggled through an area, and then you connect the network, and now that area is like, oh, well, through the power of us all pitching in, we've made this area much safer, you know? And you feel that in a tangible gameplay aspect, which is really interesting. I like that a lot. So here we go. We're at our delivery destination. Some holograms of the people that work here. A lot of people like to put down little signs. Think again of these as like Dark Souls signs, except they have like actual effects when you touch them. So like some of them will like give you a little stamina restore. Some of them might make BB happy. As you can see, there's one on the bottom left. BB is fond of the sign. BB looks happy because he has like the baby has a little happiness meter down the bottom left, and if that gets too low, the baby starts crying. And if the baby starts crying when danger's nearby, then that's very bad. But yeah, we can just, here it is. Here is BB. One of the, probably one of the most publicly known parts about Death Stranding is that there is just a baby in a jar and it is attached to the front of the main character. And it's definitely one of the parts about the game that has people going like, I kind of need to play this or experience it just to know what that's about, you know? And again, I'm not going to spoil it, but it's just interesting. It's just weird, you know. It's something told in a very strange way, and it just makes it that much more like interesting. But again, some people might look at that and just go, "That's just weird. I don't like it," and that's fair enough. So let's deliver this in. We can confirm that. Then we'll get like a little cutscene of our character delivering it, and then maybe like, yeah, a little chat here with a character saying about like, hey, did you deliver the stuff? Looks in good condition or bad condition, depending on how much you may have damaged it on the way. And then you get like a little mission complete screen. And this sort of gives you like, oh, you did it with less than 40% damage. You did it in this amount of meters. And here's your grade at the end. So awesome, S grade. And then you also like level up your porter rank. And the higher your rank, you get like different sort of benefits. And there's also different, like you can see this like star. So you have like bridge length, delivery time, delivery volume, cargo condition. As you level up those different aspects, you'll get like different benefits. So one of them is that just my weight limit got increased. So I can carry more stuff without, you know, just literally collapsing, falling over. Which is, it's such a fun way to do progression. Because this game is so weird and different in its gameplay, it means its sense of progression is also a little different. So like I unlocked an exoskeleton that you can see around my character's legs, And in any other game, you see exoskeleton, you're like, damn, I'm going to be like fucking sprinting around super fast. I'm going to be jumping all over the place or doing whatever. This exoskeleton lets me carry more stuff. And I love it. You know, I got that and I was like, oh shit, that's a good upgrade. You can get an exoskeleton that like lets you attach stuff to its legs. So now you have more like actual slots that aren't just your back. So weight distribution is easier. And it like those upgrades are like genuinely exciting, you know. Like if you really get into like the gameplay of this, then those sorts of things are really, really fun. Now there is combat in the game. It's kind of basic. There's just some like punching, and then you can also get a few like weapons and stuff. I'll show you here. So you got this thing. Oh, so take it out. There we go. It's like a bowler gun. Fires like a, you know, like 2 balls with like a string or like a wire in between that like wraps someone up when you hit them. Because like I said, death in this game is interesting. I'll leave it at that. It's very, very interesting. But you're not going to be killing anyone. But you are going to be knocking people out. So the game does suddenly turn into like a little bit of like... Is that Metal Gear Solid 5 I'm seeing here? Is this game a little bit of Metal Gear Solid 5 underneath? And from what I've heard, I think the sequel even goes a little bit harder in that regard. But yeah, there is some stealthing. There is some stealthing. And it's quite funny when you're stealthing around and you're also doing a delivery. So you just have a massive backpack, or there's a dude who looks like he just raided an Amazon warehouse and he's sneaking in tall grass next to guys who want to steal those Amazon packages. You know? Very, very funny, like, juxtaposition of, like, ideas there. But it so far for me, it's all worked, you know? That's the crazy part. It's all worked. Like I said, the story's been good. All the characters have been interesting. The names of the characters are very Hideo Kojima. There's a fella called Die Hard Man, you know, for example. Sam's name is Sam Porter, because he's a porter, of course. Yeah, overall, just had a really good time with this one. And I think it holds up really well today. Because whenever it came out, like I said, there was a bit of that idea of... like, some people just really bounced off, and there was this very mixed opinion toward Death Stranding. I think time has been very kind to this game. I think a lot of people look back on this and they think quite favorably, especially with the second one coming out. I think it's got a lot of people replaying this one. Myself, or not replaying, but playing this one for the first time, myself included. That's the main reason the second one just looks so interesting, and I just really had to like get this one out of the way. And well, I said get it out of the way as if like I want to blast through it, but I wanted to play it so I could maybe look into maybe getting the second one. And I'm just having a really good time with this one. I didn't expect to be liking it as much as I am. It's different, but it's high quality different. So if you like it, you're gonna really like it. You know, there's a lot to love here. Very strange, very different. Runs incredibly well, like I said. The engine, the Decima engine that he's using these days, just, you know, looks really nice. So I can't remember off the top of my head when this came out. I want to say like maybe 2018, 2019 or so, but incredibly good looking game. The vibes are immaculate pretty much at all times. There's a soundtrack that's very vibey. You know, you'll crest a hill and some very like sort of chill atmospheric music will pop on, and suddenly you're just doing this really cool walk down a really cool looking area with really cool sounding music playing, and it's just a damn good time. That's sort of the best thing I can say about it, you know? Just a damn good time. Weird, compelling, strange, good time. With lots of interesting little ideas, and you're either going to love it or you hate it, I think. But yeah, I think that's all I really wanted to talk about on this one. I would recommend it, especially right now. There's a summer sale going on. I'd be surprised if it wasn't involved in that, especially with the second one just being out. Now, obviously the second one is not out on PC, which is where I'm playing this one. So, if you do decide to pick it up on PC, just keep in mind that you will be waiting a while before the second one makes its way onto the platform, but I have no doubt that it will make its way there, because this one did, so there's already the precedent set. I don't think it took this one that long, but I could be wrong. I can't quite remember, but I'm looking forward to playing through the rest of this, and then I'm looking forward to maybe picking up the second one, unless this one like absolutely tanks, you know, after the halfway point or something. But I just not the sort of game I really see that happening. It feels too confident in what it is. But yeah, thanks for watching. And yeah, this has been an episode of Backlog versus which I haven't done in a little while, so hopefully you guys have enjoyed it. And also just at the end of the video here, I just wanted to promote the fact that I'm putting the live streams back on the second channel, which is Redeyes number 2, Redeyes NO.2, which will be in the description, at the bottom of the description where all like the channel links are. So my streams are back over there. I decided to separate the sort of more structured videos like this and the live streams and put them in a separate place and keep this here for this sort of stuff. So if you want to see that sort of stuff, just head over there, or to the Twitch. I multi-stream on both. So, but yeah, thanks for watching, and I shall catch you guys in the next video. Goodbye.